Have you ever noticed how some people seem to control your emotions without even touching you? A careless comment ruins your day. A disrespectful glance stays in your mind for hours. Someone ignores you, criticizes you, or treats you unfairly, and suddenly they've taken control of your peace. But here's the uncomfortable truth. They didn't steal your peace. You handed it to them. The strongest people are not those who never face disrespect. They are the ones who refuse to let another person's behavior dictate their inner state. True power is not found in winning every argument or proving everyone wrong. It is found in becoming so centered that no insult, no opinion, and no act of disrespect can shake your foundation. In this video, you'll discover 5 timeless principles inspired by Eastern wisdom and disciplined self-mastery that will completely change the way you react to difficult people. Once you understand these lessons, anger loses its grip, emotional manipulation stops working, and you'll experience a level of calm that most people never reach. Stay until the end, because the final lesson is the one that transforms emotional freedom from an idea into a permanent way of living. Most people spend their lives believing that other people make them angry. They point to rude coworkers, disrespectful family members, impatient drivers, or strangers on the internet as proof that their emotions are being controlled from the outside. It feels obvious. Someone says something offensive and anger appears. But if you look closely, you'll notice something remarkable. The event and your reaction are not the same thing. Between them exists a small but powerful space, a moment so brief that most people never notice it. Within that space lies your greatest freedom. Imagine 2 people hearing the exact same insult. One explodes with rage, replaying the words for days, while the other simply smiles and moves on. If the insult itself created anger, both people would react in exactly the same way. Yet they don't. The difference is not in what was said, it is in how it was received. Your interpretation determines your experience far more than the event itself. This realization is both unsettling and liberating, because it means your emotional state is no longer at the mercy of everyone around you. The mind is constantly assigning meaning to everything it encounters. A delayed reply becomes rejection. A critical comment becomes an attack on your identity. A disagreement becomes disrespect. Most of these meanings are created automatically, shaped by past experiences, fears, insecurities, and expectations. The body reacts before wisdom has a chance to speak. Your heart races, your muscles tighten, and suddenly anger feels justified. But what if you interrupted that process before it gained momentum? The disciplined mind learns to pause, not because it is suppressing emotion, but because it understands that the first emotional impulse is rarely the wisest guide. A pause of only a few seconds can completely change the outcome of an interaction. During that pause, ask yourself a simple question. What story am I telling myself right now? Often, you'll discover that your anger is not caused by the words themselves, but by the meaning you've attached to them. This does not mean allowing people to mistreat you or pretending harmful behavior is acceptable. Calmness is not passivity. You can set firm boundaries, walk away from unhealthy situations, or speak with confidence without becoming consumed by anger. In fact, decisions made from clarity are almost always stronger than those made from emotional chaos. Anger often convinces you that immediate action is necessary, but wisdom reminds you that your response is most powerful when it is chosen, not compelled. Every moment of irritation becomes an opportunity to strengthen your inner discipline. Instead of seeing difficult people as obstacles, begin seeing them as tests of your self-mastery. Anyone can remain calm when life is comfortable. The real measure of your character appears when someone challenges your patience, questions your value, or attempts to provoke you. If you remain centered, you have achieved something far greater than winning an argument. You have kept ownership of your own mind. The moment you understand that anger is not an unavoidable reaction, but a choice shaped by awareness, everything begins to change. Other people may continue behaving as they always have. The world may remain unpredictable, but you no longer surrender your peace so easily. You stop reacting like a puppet pulled by invisible strings and begin responding like someone who understands that true strength is measured not by how loudly you fight back, but by how completely you refuse to let another person's behavior dictate the condition of your inner world. One of the greatest illusions people live under is the belief that their peace depends on how others treat them. They believe they can only feel calm if everyone is respectful, understanding, fair, and kind. But life has never made such a promise. There will always be criticism, misunderstanding, jealousy, and people who project their frustrations onto those around them. If your inner peace depends on changing them, you have given away the one thing that should never leave your possession: authority over your own mind. Think about how often a single careless remark can occupy your thoughts for hours. Someone questions your abilities, ignores your effort, or speaks to you with disrespect. The conversation ends, yet it continues inside your head. You replay every word, imagine different responses, and carry the emotional weight long after the other person has forgotten the interaction. In that moment, they are no longer speaking to you, yet they are still controlling your emotional state. Not because they have extraordinary power, but because you have unknowingly handed it to them. Emotionally mature people understand a simple truth. Another person's behavior is often a reflection of their inner condition, not your value. A person who constantly criticizes may be deeply insecure. Someone who insults others may be carrying unresolved pain. A person who seeks conflict may be fighting battles within themselves that you cannot see. Their actions reveal their habits of mind, their fears, and their level of awareness. They do not define who you are unless you allow them to become part of your identity. This shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of immediately asking, "Why are they treating me this way?" you begin asking, "What is happening within them that causes this behavior?" That question does not excuse harmful actions, nor does it mean accepting disrespect. It simply removes the emotional poison that comes from taking everything personally. Compassion replaces resentment, and understanding replaces unnecessary suffering. Many people mistake detachment for coldness, but true detachment is neither distant nor uncaring. It is the ability to remain emotionally balanced without becoming entangled in every opinion, every insult, and every piece of negativity that crosses your path. You still care about people, you still listen, you still communicate honestly. But you stop allowing every external event to determine your internal condition. Imagine carrying a precious bowl filled to the brim with clear water. Every insult, every criticism, and every moment of disrespect becomes someone trying to shake that bowl. Most people hand the bowl to everyone they meet, hoping others will handle it carefully. Eventually the water spills, and they wonder why they feel exhausted. The wise person never hands over the bowl. They carry it themselves with steady hands, understanding that protecting their peace is their own responsibility. This also means releasing the endless need for validation. Many people become angry because they desperately want approval. They want everyone to recognize their worth, agree with their opinions, and appreciate their efforts. But the moment your self-worth depends on someone else's opinion, you have surrendered control over your happiness. Praise may lift you for a moment, but criticism will crush you just as quickly. Real confidence is built on something much deeper. It comes from knowing your values, acting with integrity, and remaining faithful to your principles, whether others applaud you or ignore you. There is incredible freedom in realizing that not every battle deserves your attention. Not every accusation requires a defense. Not every misunderstanding demands an explanation. Sometimes the strongest response is quiet confidence. Silence is not surrender when it comes from inner strength. Walking away is not weakness when it protects your peace. Refusing to argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you is not defeat. It is wisdom. As you practice this way of living, something remarkable begins to happen. The words that once disturbed you lose their weight. The opinions that once kept you awake at night become distant echoes. Difficult people continue to exist, but they no longer occupy space in your mind long after they leave your presence. You recognize that your peace is too valuable to be exchanged for temporary emotional victories. The moment you stop giving other people authority over your inner world, you become impossible to manipulate. Their approval no longer inflates your ego, and their criticism no longer defines your identity. You move through life with quiet confidence, grounded in the understanding that your greatest responsibility is not controlling other people's behavior, but protecting the calm, steady mind that no one can disturb without your permission. The human mind has a habit that quietly creates unnecessary suffering. It absorbs everything it encounters. A careless comment becomes a personal wound. A stranger's bad mood becomes your burden. Someone else's frustration settles into your thoughts as if it belongs there. Most people move through life like an open sponge, soaking up every emotion, opinion, and conflict around them. They do not realize that the greatest source of their exhaustion is not what happens to them, but what they choose to carry after it happens. Imagine standing beside a river. Leaves, branches, and pieces of debris float past with the current. You watch them appear and disappear without feeling the need to jump into the water and collect each one. Your thoughts and emotions work in much the same way. Anger, disappointment, fear, and irritation are passing experiences. They arise, remain for a moment, and eventually fade if you allow them to continue flowing. The problem begins when you grab hold of one emotion and declare, "This is who I am," or "I must act on this immediately." The moment you cling to it, what was temporary becomes lasting. Observation is the practice of creating distance between yourself and your immediate emotional reaction. It is the ability to notice what is happening inside you without becoming controlled by it. Instead of saying, "I am angry," you begin to notice anger is present. That small shift in language may seem insignificant, but it transforms your relationship with your emotions. You are no longer identified with them. You become the observer rather than the emotion itself. This awareness allows you to separate facts from the stories your mind creates. Consider how often a simple event grows into an elaborate narrative. A friend forgets to reply to your message, and your mind whispers that they no longer value your friendship. A coworker speaks briefly, and you assume they dislike you. Someone disagrees with your opinion, and suddenly you feel personally attacked. The facts are often simple, but the stories become complicated. The mind fills empty spaces with assumptions, and those assumptions become the fuel for emotional reactions. A disciplined observer questions those stories before believing them. Instead of accepting every thought as truth, you ask, "Do I know this for certain, or am I creating meaning where none exists?" That single question has the power to dissolve countless unnecessary conflicts. You discover that much of what disturbed you existed only in your interpretation, not in reality. There is also tremendous strength in silence. Most people believe they must respond immediately whenever they feel challenged. They interrupt, defend themselves, or react before understanding the full situation. But silence creates space for clarity. It allows emotions to settle before decisions are made. In that quiet space, you often recognize that what seemed urgent a moment ago no longer deserves your energy. The strongest response is frequently the one that arrives after careful observation rather than instant emotion. This does not mean becoming emotionally numb or detached from life. On the contrary, true observation makes you more present. You notice the tension in your body before it controls your actions. You recognize irritation before it becomes anger. You become aware of your breathing, your posture, and the subtle changes in your mind that usually go unnoticed. These small moments of awareness interrupt old habits and create the possibility for wiser choices. Like any discipline, observation grows stronger through consistent practice. At first, you may only notice your emotions after you've already reacted. That is still progress. With time, you'll recognize them while they are unfolding. Eventually, you'll see them before they gain momentum. This is how emotional habits begin to lose their power. Every moment of awareness weakens the automatic patterns that once controlled you. The remarkable truth that people lose much of their ability to provoke you when you stop absorbing everything they project. Their anger remains theirs. Their negativity belongs to them. Their opinions become information rather than commands. You witness them without carrying them. You listen without surrendering your balance. You understand without becoming entangled. A calm mind is not created by avoiding difficult people or perfect circumstances. It is created by learning to observe life without allowing every passing emotion to become your identity. The moment you master this skill, you discover a freedom that cannot be taken from you. You no longer live as a prisoner of every thought that enters your mind. Instead, you become the quiet witness behind every experience, steady, aware, and untouched by the storms that once seemed impossible to escape. Most people spend a great deal of their lives trying to avoid difficult people. They wish everyone would be more understanding, more patient, more respectful, and easier to deal with. They imagine that peace would finally arrive if certain individuals disappeared from their lives. But this way of thinking overlooks a powerful truth. The people who challenge you the most are often the very people responsible for your greatest growth. Without realizing it, your most frustrating encounters can become your most valuable lessons. Think about physical training. No muscle becomes stronger without resistance. If every weight in the gym felt light, your body would never adapt or grow. The same principle applies to the mind. Patience cannot develop without impatience testing it. Self-control cannot develop without temptation. Emotional resilience cannot develop without difficult situations. Every person who challenges your peace is presenting an opportunity to strengthen qualities that comfort alone can never create. When someone criticizes you unfairly, your first instinct may be to focus entirely on their behavior. You may wonder why they are so negative, insensitive, or unreasonable. Yet there is another question that can completely transform the experience. What is this situation teaching me about myself? Perhaps it is revealing an insecurity you did not know you carried. Perhaps it is showing you how strongly you depend on approval from others. Perhaps it is exposing an emotional trigger that still controls your reactions. The difficult person becomes a mirror, reflecting parts of yourself that remain hidden during easier moments. This is why some people continue to repeat the same emotional struggles throughout their lives. They focus only on changing the people around them, while ignoring the lessons each challenge offers. They encounter criticism and become defensive. They encounter disagreement and become angry. They encounter disrespect and lose their composure. Years pass, but the pattern remains the same because the focus never shifts inward. Growth begins the moment you stop asking, "How do I change them?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" Consider the individuals who seem to provoke you the most. They often reveal exactly where your inner work is needed. If someone's arrogance instantly upsets you, there may be something within yourself that feels threatened by it. If criticism feels unbearable, there may be a part of you seeking constant validation. If disrespect sends you into anger, there may be an attachment to how others perceive you. None of these discoveries are comfortable, but they are incredibly valuable. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. This perspective also cultivates compassion. When you look closely at difficult people, you often discover that their behavior is rooted in suffering. The person who constantly seeks conflict may be deeply unhappy. The one who criticizes everyone may be battling feelings of inadequacy. The individual who spreads negativity may be carrying emotional wounds that remain unresolved. This understanding does not excuse harmful behavior, but it prevents you from becoming consumed by resentment. Instead of reacting with anger, you begin responding with wisdom. One of the greatest signs of maturity is recognizing that every encounter contains a lesson. Some people teach you patience. Others teach you boundaries. Some teach you forgiveness. Others teach you the importance of self-respect. Even those who disappoint you contribute to your development by showing you what values matter most. Every interaction becomes part of your training. Imagine approaching each difficult conversation as a form of mental practice. Rather than seeing it as an interruption to your peace, you view it as an opportunity to strengthen your discipline. The rude comment becomes a chance to practice restraint. The unfair criticism becomes a chance to practice confidence. The disagreement becomes a chance to practice understanding. In this way, life's challenges stop feeling like obstacles and start becoming exercises that develop inner strength. Over time, something remarkable happens. The people who once had the power to disturb you no longer affect you in the same way. Not because they have changed, but because you have. The situations that once triggered anger now reveal opportunities for growth. The individuals who once felt like enemies become unexpected teachers. You begin to understand that your greatest progress rarely comes from comfort or praise. It comes from the moments that challenge you to rise above your old habits. When viewed through this lens, difficult people are no longer obstacles standing in the way of your peace. They are part of the path itself. Every challenge they present invites you to become calmer, wiser, stronger, and more self-aware. And the moment you embrace that lesson, the very people who once frustrated you become some of the most important contributors to your personal transformation. Your mind is the most valuable possession you will ever own. Yet most people protect it less carefully than they protect their phone, their wallet, or their reputation. They would never allow a stranger to walk into their home and throw trash across the floor. Yet they allow random opinions, endless negativity, and meaningless conflicts to enter their minds every single day. They consume arguments, gossip, outrage, and criticism without realizing that every unnecessary thought occupies space that could have been filled with clarity, wisdom, and peace. If you truly wish to become someone who is never easily angered or bothered, you must begin treating your mind as something precious that deserves constant protection. Every day your attention is being competed for. News headlines are designed to provoke emotion. Social media encourages comparison and outrage. Conversations often revolve around complaints rather than solutions. Even well-meaning people sometimes spread fear, anxiety, and frustration without realizing it. If you absorb everything around you without discrimination, your inner world gradually begins to resemble the chaos of your outer environment. Eventually, you find yourself reacting emotionally, not because life has become more difficult, but because your mind has become overcrowded. The disciplined person understands that attention is a limited resource. Every minute spent replaying an argument is a minute stolen from your own growth. Every hour spent trying to prove someone wrong is an hour that could have been invested in learning a new skill, strengthening your character, or deepening your peace. The question is not whether something deserves a response. The real question is whether it deserves your attention. Those are not the same thing. Imagine carrying a backpack everywhere you go. Every insult you remember, every disappointment you refuse to release, every unnecessary argument you replay becomes another heavy stone placed inside that bag. At first, the weight seems manageable, but over time the burden grows heavier, and you begin wondering why life feels exhausting. The truth is that much of the weight is self-imposed. You are carrying things that no longer serve you. Protecting your mind means learning to put those stones down instead of collecting more. One of the greatest forms of strength is selective attention. This means choosing deliberately what enters your consciousness. Not every conversation deserves your participation. Not every opinion deserves your consideration. Not every